Hey, what's going on, guys? It's FPL Yusuf, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be going over my transfer targets ahead of the Game Week 5 deadline. I'm taking you guys through what my current team's looking like for Game Week 5, some of the moves that I'm looking to make maybe this week or in future weeks in advance. I'm also going to go over some cheaper options, especially for the forward line, but we're going to look at the midfielders as well. As we draw closer and closer to a game week where most people are probably going to wildcard, we're going to look at some differential options for that. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today for another video on my YouTube channel. Before we get into this, if you wouldn't mind dropping a thumbs up and subscribing down below, it would be greatly appreciated. So, game week 4, it was an okay game week. I think there was a lot of fluctuation in terms of people scoring. I think some people did really well, some people didn't do as well, some people were sort of around the middle, and that's exactly what I finished. You know, just a little bit above the average. We hit 54 points. Obviously, most of them coming back from Erling Haaland, as I think a lot of people would have had this week with him being the captaincy. You know, very close to getting his hat trick again. Hit the post, unfortunately, but he did come away with a brace. So yeah, happy to own him and happy to captain him. You know, the other standouts were obviously the Arsenal defense. For me, I had David Raya in goal. Gabriel, for a lot of people, you know, coming off the bench, I think for the João Pedro sub with a 15-pointer. So I know there have probably been a lot of happy people seeing that he was out of the squad. But other than that, there wasn't really too much returns. You know, Mazraoui got a clean sheet for us in the back for United, but everyone else just was a lot of 1s, 2s, and 3s, unfortunately. I felt a little bit hard done by that. Diogo Jota got subbed off 8 seconds before getting the extra 2 points, but you know, these things happen. You know, like I said, on another day, you know, someone like Matoma and Welbeck would have got returns. I think a lot of people were sort of expecting Brighton to get on the score sheet against Ipswich, but these things happen in FPL. You know, you have game weeks like this. So if you've done well this week, fantastic. Maybe if you haven't done so well, don't beat yourself up too much, because there's very few game weeks like this where you're going to have most players blanking, but they do happen in FPL, and it's just something that we have to sort of deal with and accept. But overall rank, we're coming in small red arrow this week. We're down to 270,000, so not the worst. I think we dropped about sort of 40,000-50,000 places. So, you know, at this stage of the season, with how, you know, early it is, you know, rank is really a temporary thing. It's so, you know, you could have one big game where you can jump up by 500,000-600,000 spaces. So yeah, we're currently on track. We're doing well. Like I said, the overall rank's 270,000, but we're going to get into my game week 5 team, what the transfers I'm going to make. And we're also going to take a look at some of the cheaper options, which maybe if you guys are wildcarding this week or maybe possibly next week, could be something to think about in the long term. Okay, so my transfers for this week. Now, it's worth me saying before I get into this that I think I'm probably going to roll. I'm 95% sure. You guys know that's my favorite number to say. I'm 95% sure that I'm just going to roll my transfer this week and take 2 into game week 6. However, the 2 that I am looking at is Eze and it is Jota. Now, let's start with Eze first. So, disappointing in game week 4 for him. You know, I think a lot of people would have expected him to get something out of the Leicester game, which is why I bought him on wildcard. Now, I'm a little bit annoyed at myself because at the start of the season, you know, if you're watching my videos before preseason, Eze was someone that I didn't want to own because I owned him last season, and he did the same thing last season where I had him for the first sort of 6 weeks, and he got, I think, 1 attacking return, which was an assist. And this is the one thing that I was talking about, where Elise is not there and maybe Mateta's not 100% up to speed. Eze kind of goes missing in these sort of games where he's not as prolific as what he was towards the back end of last season. And this is one thing that I massively talked about throughout pre-season. And I went against my own advice because he had Leicester at home. On paper, it's a fantastic fixture. I think that was the biggest reason why I bought him in, was because a lot of people had him. It was more of a protection against rank as opposed to like trying to get upside with Eze. But, you know, the plan was always to hold him for 3 weeks. So, I mean, at the time of recording, like I said, I'm probably going to roll my transfer this week. But he is somebody that I'm frustrated with. I'm frustrated that I owned him in the first place because I didn't want to buy him. And I think a little bit, this is the first time this season that fear kind of got in the way. And this is why I always say, don't worry about what other people are doing. Just focus on your team and what's best for you. Now, granted, if I hadn't put Eze in the wild card, it probably would have been a Jarrod Bowen who, you know, didn't have an amazing week, but did better than Eze, of course. But we're going to come on to him because he is one transfer that I'm looking to bring in. So with Eze, he's obviously got decent-ish fixtures coming up. You know, they've got Manchester United and they've got Everton as the next 2. So for me, that's why I wanted to keep him in, you know, for wildcard. That was my plan, was to keep him in for the 3 weeks, you know, Leicester, Man United and Everton, and then get rid of him. So I think I might as well just stick with the plan now, because I don't know if it's worth me transferring him out when Jota is becoming a bit more of an issue for me as well. So yeah, we'll get on to Jota in a second. But with Eze, the replacements, as you can see on screen, these are both, those 3 replacements that I've currently got on the screen for you guys now are for both Jota and Eze, depending on which one comes out. So we'll start first with Kevin Schroeder. Now, he becomes so interesting to me. Obviously, you know, we've heard the unfortunate news this week that Johan Vissers is probably going to be out for, you know, looking at 1 to 2 months. So he's going to be gone for a while now. I think it's fair to say that obviously, you know, Tony's not there anymore. Wissers out. I would imagine that Schroeder will play number 9 for them. Now, there is a possibility that Mbuemo could play up front and play the number 9. I don't know if that's his best position. For me personally, I think you'll probably see Keane Lewis Potter on the left and Burma on the right, and then Schroeder through the middle. Now, the reason why I like him is one, because he's 5.4, so he's a great enabler, firstly. But secondly, he's down as a midfielder in the game. Now, as we're talking about Eze and Jota, looking to move them two down, you're going to save, 1 to 2 million depending on which player you get rid of. So for me, I like it already because he's a good budget enabler. Two, because if he does start up front for Brentford, I think he'll probably just carry on being that number 9 until Johan Vissa comes back, which is obviously great news because Brentford will score goals. I don't know if they'll score loads of them because it's always usually Mbuemo and Vissa. So I don't know if Mbuemo will have the same relationship with Schroeder as he does with Vissa. Only time will tell. But I do like him as a pick. Like I said, differential option. Currently only owned by 0.1% of people. So next to nobody has got him. I think as the time goes on, especially after this week, and a lot of people start wildcarding game week 6, I think you'll see his ownership slowly creep up. So he's just one to keep an eye on. The other player I've got on this list as replacements for Eze and Jota is Brian Mbuemo. Now, he is obviously the standout pick. My only question around him now is he as good an option now that this is not there? So he was obviously always going to be on penalties. So if Brentford get a penalty, he will take it, and he's very good at taking them. But he would have had the penalties even if Vissa was there. I don't know how he's going to play with Kevin Schroeder, or if they're going to have that same understanding that he had with Vissa. Brentford are synonymous with them two being on point and being on the same page, and it works for them. Whereas Schroeder is a new player. Obviously, he does play here and there, but he's never had a run of consistent games. So yeah, I think for this week, I'm not going to make the transfer. I'm going to let just see how Brentford get on. See how they play, and then maybe look to make the change. Maybe next week, if we're looking to sort of downgrade and take some money out of the team in the midfield, especially. And the last player I'm looking at bringing in is Jarrod Bowen. Now, I touched on him just a minute ago. Didn't have the greatest game last week, but did come up with an assist. I do think West Ham's fixtures are going to start to change soon, but I also think West Ham are going to have to start scoring. Now, I've seen Jarrod Bowen playing as the number 9, and I've seen him playing out wide as well. Now, I like him if he's playing either position. I like Jarrod Bowen, but if he's up front, even more so. I think for me, I like it a little bit better because I think the 3 behind him would probably be Kudu, Somerville, and Paqueta. Now, that is a lot of attacking threat and a lot of creativity behind him. Now, if he's going to carry on playing that number 9, I think for me, he's the one I prioritize over the other two. It was Mbuemo, but obviously because, the injury to Vissa, I don't know how that's going to affect his game and whether he's going to be as prolific. So yeah, Jarrod Bowen for me is the most expensive, but I think also does have the biggest upside. Diogo Jota, why am I looking to get rid of him? Because obviously Liverpool still have decent fixtures. They've got Bournemouth away this week. They've got Crystal Palace coming up. They've got Wolves coming up as their next 3. So they're 3 good fixtures. My worry for him and for Liverpool in particular is they just seems to just be missing chances, and it's not something that I'm used to seeing with Diogo Jota. His finishing is so good, but the chances when he gets them, he doesn't seem to be converting them as prolifically as he usually does. But also, I feel like the game's kind of passing him by a little bit. I think it's more down the wings for Liverpool at the moment. So naturally, over the next few weeks, especially if you're wildcard in game week 6, I don't know if you'd want to take triple Liverpool in. Obviously Arsenal's fixtures coming up are fantastic from game week 6, so you probably want to prioritise getting a Saka or a Havertz in. So maybe that means freeing up some money from the likes of Diogo Jota and Eze, which is why I put someone like Kevin Schroeder on here. But yeah, for me, I think Jota, questions have to be asked of him long term. I'm not going to get rid of him this week. Like I said, it's Bournemouth at home. It could go either way. I don't think Bournemouth are going to roll over and get destroyed. I think they will put up a count themselves. I do expect Liverpool to win. I do expect them to bounce back, especially after the Nottingham Forest result. But yeah, I think Jota's just one that I'm going to keep an eye on for the moment, just to see, because obviously there's a lot of players around his price that you could move to. Bowen and Burmo are 2 of them. Like I said, you could drop down to Schroeder and free up some money for elsewhere. So there's options that be had. But I think for right now, these are the 2 that I'm looking at. But like I said at the start, I'm probably going to roll my transfer and make that choice next week. Okay, now let's take a look at some cheap forwards going into this week. I know a lot of people are going to be wildcarding game week 6, so some people might be looking to just have like a little one week game week punt just to bring somebody in, just to try and sort of get a little bit of upside before they wildcard out. Now, I think it's worth me saying the 2 for me, and the one I've got is obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Jamie Vardy. Now, ironically, they both play each other this week, so it's a battle of 2 strikers against 2 poor defenses. Now, I think for me, if I wasn't on a wild card and I was prioritizing long term, I would probably just swerve towards Calvert-Lewin a little bit more for 2 reasons. Number one, I think he offers more assist threat. So he has the goal threat, as you can see on screen. Both of them are very close. Jamie Vardy 0.4, Dominic Calvert-Lewin 0.31. So they're very close in terms of expected goals. I think it's the assist threat that Calvert-Lewin offers a little bit more than Vardy. Vardy has literally next to no assist threat, whereas Calvert-Lewin holds up the play, brings McNeil, brings Harrison into play, Decore when he starts getting forward. So I think there's a little bit, just ever so slightly, but a little bit more routes to point for Calvert-Lewin. Like I said, if you're not on a wild card, I think he just about has the better fixtures, and that's because Vardy obviously plays Arsenal in game week 6. So it's not ideal. The way Arsenal defend, just how good they are, I don't expect him to get anything from there. And the thing about Jamie Vardy is he's had 2 games this season where he's had a 0 XGI, which for me, it's a little bit of a problem. So yeah, I think if I was trying to choose one, I would probably prioritize Calvert-Lewin. If you are on a wild card and this was going to be your 8th attacker or 7th attacker, you didn't really care, then maybe you could look to just bench Vardy in that game because Vardy he's got Everton, Southampton's part of that next couple of games that he's got. So he's playing against defenses which aren't great. I think if you're wildcarded, there's definitely an option to like obviously Vardy's a little bit cheaper as well, which if you're looking to save a couple of point millions here and there, it's not a bad idea. But I just think for me, Calvert-Lewin offers, like I said, I think he's more consistent on terms of a routes to point, but also I think just his assist threat as well just kind of swings it in his favour. And like I said, I put him in on my wild card with the idea that I was going to sort of chop and change him depending on what the fixture was. So yeah, Everton as a team defensively aren't playing well, but they are scoring goals. Now, the last 2 weeks they've been 2-0 up, so they are scoring their goals. It's just a shame that their defense can't hold it out. So they've blown both the leads in the last 2 weeks, which to some people may be a little bit concerning because it's like, how is that going to affect Everton mentally? But I think it's just clear that they will score goals and they will get chances. And I think Calvert-Lewin will tick over nicely. I think for me, it's just a question of, if you're wildcarding, do you care about have you got someone that you can bench Jamie Vardy for against that Arsenal fixture? If you do, then maybe I'd swerve more towards him. But for me, if you're not on a wildcard or you already played it, I think Calvert-Lewin long term is somebody that you can probably get into more fixtures, and it's just going to be that little bit more reliable for you. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Sorry, this video was supposed to come out at the start of the week, but I've just been caught up, so it's very much delayed. Usually I drop the transfer targets on Monday, so from next week I'll be back to my usual schedule. I will be back tomorrow, however, with a final team selection video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you haven't turned the notification bell on, do it, because I'm going to put that one up, and I'm also going to try and get a Game Week 6 wildcard up, maybe on the weekend this time as opposed to next week. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But like I said, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I'll catch you guys next time.